Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. So yesterday, rumors exploded online that Sony was about ready to make a pretty significant acquisition, and those rumors do continue on today, as not only did we get an update, but now we're also hearing something else. Yeah, this feels never ending by this point, but we will go over that one later on in the video. And also, Xbox and PC fans are starting to get their hopes up that a pretty major port might be incoming that fans have been asking for years and years. So make sure to stay tuned for that one as well. As usual though, if you do find yourself enjoying the video, smash that like button below. It does help out the channel a ton. Plus, go ahead and hit that bell notification and subscribe button as well. That way you can keep up with all the latest gaming news across the game industry. Let's just go and jump right into the video though, starting off with Ghost of Tsushima. Now, I think with this game, a lot of people will recognize it for being a fantastic single-player game because, well, it absolutely is. But one thing that Sucker Punch has done a really good job at is supporting this game since its initial release. I mean, this is a game that received various updates, a new expansion, a PlayStation 5 upgrade, and also it got that multiplayer game mode as well. Yeah, Sucker Punch has done a pretty good job here at supporting a single-player driven game for an extended amount of time, but that support is now ending here. They did just announce Ghost of Tsushima's final patch, which I actually view this as a good overall thing. This means that they can use those resources and bring them over to their next big project, which is under development right now. Now that right there is the exciting part here, because as they are working on this other project and they have more resources, it really just comes down to what exactly are they working on? Are they going to work on a sequel for Ghost of Tsushima? I do think that that is very possible considering just how successful the first game was. It did sell more than 8 million units worldwide, which is absolutely incredible for a new IP. So I think that there's a lot of potential for a second game here, or they could rewind a little bit and go back to the infamous franchise once again. It would be interesting to see what they could do with that franchise working with the PlayStation 5. And then of course they also have Sly Cooper as well, though we have been hearing that Sly Cooper is being handled by Pixel Opus now. So I wouldn't really bank on Sucker Punch working on that, but who knows? We'll just have to kind of wait and see. But let me know in the comments below what you would like to see Sucker Punch work on next. Do you want them to work on one of their existing IP or something completely new? Next up here, we got a nice little update for Scarlet, Nexus, and Game Pass. Bandai Namco over on Twitter did give us a nice little update stating that Scarlet Nexus has reached 2 million players worldwide, including loyal fans on Xbox and PC Game Pass. Thank you very much for supporting the OSF. They also did reveal that it has officially sold more than 1 million units worldwide, which is actually pretty good for a game like this. And what is interesting about this is that they are specifically pointing to Xbox and PC Game Pass for some of that success. It very well has increased the awareness of this game, which is something that we have seen here recently with a couple of bigger IP. One trend that we have seen here in the last year is some of these bigger games, they just have a more traditional style of launch, and maybe it wasn't necessarily the most successful launch in the world, maybe it hasn't gotten enough recognition, so they go over to Xbox, they get a nice little paycheck from Xbox Game Pass, include a game over there, and then all of a sudden you start to see these games take off. And in fact, we were just talking about this the other week as Eidos Montreal, they pointed to Game Pass and how it helped Guardians of the Galaxy after it did have some struggles with its initial release. So this is something that we are starting to see where some of these bigger games, they head over to Game Pass months after release and they just get this little extra burst of recognition. And I think this is really one of the best things for some of these games that head over to Xbox Game Pass. One of the most powerful marketing tools really comes down to word of mouth, and one thing that we have seen a lot really since the launch of Xbox Game Pass is when a game heads over to this service, fans start to talk about these games a lot more, and if a game is good, like Scarlet Nexus, like Guardians of the Galaxy, of course, a lot of people are going to be talking about that online. So yes, on top of Microsoft paying them to include a game like this in their service, they're also getting extra recognition, which does translate to sales not only for Xbox, but also for other platforms as well. I do always like to point that out, but when it comes to a multi-platform game that heads over to Xbox Game Pass, and yes, when people are talking about how good it is online, that does indeed translate to sales over on PlayStation and Nintendo, or even PC as well. Either way though, big congrats to Bandai Namco on all of their success with Scarlet Nexus. Now, speaking of Xbox and Xbox Game Pass, we might as well go and talk about this because this has been in the rumor mill for a very long time, and that is that Persona 5 will eventually be ported over to other platforms, including Xbox, Nintendo, and PC. And honestly, it's kind of mind-blowing that Sega and Atlus has not already done this. It's almost like they just don't like money, or maybe Sony actually does have some type of deal in place where they have to remain PlayStation exclusive. It's kind of hard to tell, but obviously fans have been wanting these games on other platforms for a very, very long time. And interestingly enough, something very strange happened today, and this just kind of came out of nowhere. So, the official Microsoft Windows account responded to just some random tweet online, and yeah, let's just go and check this out. So the original tweet here says that I think the April announcement is a game, given 2 games are out and that Persona game is out for fall/holiday. I think Atlus Japan wants to replicate 2018 release windows, having 2 Persona game releases in that year, 1 Team Maniacs game and 1 Vanillaware release and alt release. And this is where things get really strange because Windows decided to respond to this saying, hard to believe it's been almost 6 years since Persona 5 was released in the United States. How many times have you played through it since then? Counting Royal, of course, with the infamous winky emoji here at the end. Now, this is such a strange tweet for really multiple reasons. The first of which, and I think this is the most obvious of which, Persona 5 is not available on Windows PC, let alone Persona 5 Royal. So why are they talking about it here? Unless, maybe, and this is what a lot of people are speculating now, are they actually teasing an upcoming announcement? Maybe, or maybe not, but that's the other part about this. They just seemingly found some random tweet online and decided to go out of their way and actually talk about Persona 5 Royal. Again, why do something like that? Nobody was talking to Windows here. There was no at Windows or anything like that. Now, technically, there was release Windows mentioned in the tweet, so they could have just searched their own name on Twitter or something like that, and this tweet here popped up. But again, they still went out of their way to talk about Persona 5 Royal when they really did not have to do that. So what this really has done is it's once again got fans' hopes up that a Persona 5 announcement is on its way and it might be heading to other platforms, most notably, of course, being Windows PC. That is the platform that is specifically mentioned here, though I know a lot of fans are hoping that it will get an Xbox and Nintendo release as well. Truthfully, over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of talk about different Persona games heading over to Nintendo or Xbox at one point in time. We've seen Atlus put out different surveys, and I mean, up to this point, it hasn't really amounted to anything, but maybe with this Windows tweet here, maybe something actually is happening after all. At the same time, though, while this tweet is definitely interesting and strange all at the same time, I still wouldn't get my hopes up too much until we get an official announcement, if an official announcement is ever made. I mean, we are talking about Atlus here, and if there's anything about this studio, they make some really strange business decisions as a whole. I mean, you're talking about a studio that will release Persona 5 as a PlayStation 4 exclusive, turn around and make Persona Q2 as a 3DS exclusive. Then you have Persona 5 Strikers, and it goes to the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation, and now most recently you have Persona Arena, and that miraculously is on all platforms, including Xbox. I mean, it just makes no sense, and there's no consistency there. So this is the studio that you're kind of dealing with, and even with Persona 4 Golden, whenever that released on Steam, Sega and Atlus was shocked that that game had a lot of success on there. Yeah, it is what it is, I guess, but if they were smart, what they would do is just port all of the mainline Persona games over to all modern platforms. They're just kind of sitting on a gold mine here, but that's just kind of Atlus for you. But nonetheless, though, this Windows tweet is strange and interesting all at the same time, and I'd love to hear your all's thoughts about this in the comments below. Do you think any of this is actually going to amount to anything, or do you think it just means absolutely nothing? Let me know in the comments below. Now, we did get an update on some of those Sony acquisition rumors. This just kind of blew up online yesterday and kind of broke the internet as a lot of people were speculating that maybe Sony is acquiring Kojima Productions. This all kind of started off with the PlayStation banner on their website where they decided to make a slight change. They decided to swap out Concrete Genie for Death Stranding, and the belief here was that this banner only includes first-party studio PlayStation games. And this is where everything blew up, and for a lot of people out there, they believe that this was a done deal. Kojima Productions has already been acquired. He's moved to a new studio. There's rumors of a PlayStation acquisition, which we'll actually get back to here in just a moment. So this has to be it. Surely there's going to be an imminent announcement. Well, there was an announcement after all, but this is actually from Hideo Kojima himself, and let's just go and check out what he had to say. Over on Twitter, he did post this. I'm sorry for the misunderstanding, but Kojima Productions has been and will continue to be an independent studio. So there you have it. From Hideo Kojima himself, he is denying the Sony acquisition rumors. So for the moment, at the very least, this should put a pin in that discussion. Now, I have seen some people kind of point towards the Bluepoint Studio acquisition because something very similar happened there as well. That was actually one of the rare situations where there was some rumors ahead of that official announcement, though this wasn't because of some insider got some type of scoop or anything like that, but rather because Sony accidentally posted that on Twitter before the deal was officially done. So there was kind of a mix-up there, but once those rumors hit the internet, Bluepoint kind of made it a point on their Twitter bio that they were still an independent studio. So because of all that, I have seen some people online that are not exactly taking this tweet here by Hideo Kojima at face value, but at the same time, I think that we just have to kind of put a pin in this discussion for the time being. If it happens sometime in the future, okay, but there's really not anything that's pointing towards that. And even as I said yesterday, Death Stranding is owned by Sony. That has always been well known, so they could have very simply just put that on the banner because, well, they own that game. It is a first-party game. So as I said yesterday, that was not a clear indication of anything, but one thing that we do absolutely know for a fact is that Sony is looking to acquire more studios. They have publicly said that themselves. The question really just comes down to who are they targeting right now? And of course, there's going to be a lot of speculation about this. There's also going to be a lot of rumors about this. And in fact, that's actually what we're going to be talking about right now because Jeff Grubb, which is a well-respected insider, he has talked about this a couple of times here in the last few weeks. This actually started back whenever Greg Miller had been hearing that there was going to be some type of big acquisition from PlayStation sometime here soon, and apparently Jeff Grubb has heard that as well. He did mention this a few weeks ago, and this is very important, he kind of indicated that he wasn't necessarily confident and that he wasn't willing to write a story on this and put his name behind it. So do keep that in mind. But interestingly enough, yesterday he did clarify on some of the things that he had heard behind the scenes. He did state that he had never heard anything about Kojima Productions, but rather what he was hearing, it was actually bigger than that. So these acquisition rumors, they're not over. And really, I mean, these rumors have been going on for the last 2 years, but this is just my impression from this. Don't believe anything that you hear online. The reason I say that is because one thing that we have seen over the last couple of years is nobody knows anything when it comes to acquisitions. Nobody. I mean, there's been a few rare occasions where an acquisition might have slipped out ahead of time, such as I believe it was Playground Games for Microsoft, and then of course Bluepoint, but that was actually Sony's fault because they accidentally tweeted that out ahead of time. So again, nobody seems to know anything when it comes to these acquisitions, and I think the Activision Blizzard acquisition or the Bethesda acquisition is the most telling of that. I mean, these acquisitions were massive and they just came out of nowhere. They were just complete surprises. You're talking about a $70 billion acquisition in Activision Blizzard, or nearly $70 billion, and nobody knew a thing about that. It was a complete surprise, and I think that just kind of shows you that, for the most part, it seems like these companies, they don't let that stuff leak out. So when it comes to acquisition rumors, definitely take all that type of stuff with a grain of salt. You're going to see a lot of rumors, you're going to see a lot of speculation, and you're also going to see people just simply try to gain clout. Again, just be cautious as to what you believe online right now when it comes to acquisitions, but the one thing that we absolutely do know is that Sony is looking for more studios. They've stated this publicly, so now it's just a matter of who and when. And for that matter, if you look at Sony's acquisitions, they have had some big surprises over the last couple of years. I mean, some of them made a lot of sense because they've been great partners in the past. You take a look at Insomniac Games, you take a look at Housemarque, or even Bluepoint. They have been great partners in the past. But then you have other studios that just kind of came out of left field, such as Nexus or Bungie. I mean, these were complete surprises. So all I'm trying to say is you never really know what to expect when it comes to acquisitions. Let's go and move on over to the poll of the day, though, and after I had to delete my first poll, considering Kojima kind of answered the question for us, I decided to ask you all, if you own a Nintendo 3DS, have you purchased any games for it since they announced the eShop will be closing soon? And as you can see here, most of you all know have not bought any, with 49% of you saying no, while only 11% of you said yes. Now, one of the most interesting things about the results here, though, was actually in the comments, because it seems like this announcement has had a rather interesting side effect for the Nintendo 3DS, as a lot of you all did mention that while you haven't bought any new games for the 3DS, you actually decided to take a different direction, and that was simply to download custom firmware. Now, I'm sure Nintendo's not necessarily happy with this, but I think that this was kind of inevitable. This was one of the things that people did point out whenever this announcement was originally made, that there will probably be an increase in custom firmware for the 3DS. Now, I will say for myself, I have purchased some 3DS games since the announcement. They've had a couple of really good sales here in the last couple of months, so I've picked up some of those games, especially like Atlas games. Those games are incredibly expensive if you want to buy them physically, so it's been really nice to see some discounts for those games, and I do hope that we continue to see some pretty nice discounts throughout the coming months as well. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.